Hello guys, welcome to the fiction series. Today we are gonna see, what if Naruto got harem with Charlie, Cherri and Loona? Part 1. If you want more awesome fan fiction like this, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, so without wasting any time let's get into the video. No. A pale-skinned demon with neatly combed blonde hair repeated as he paced back and forth. His eyes were rather particular, looking slightly yellow with snake-like pupils and purple lids resembling eyeshadow. His lips were black with circular red markings at the edges on his cheeks. His outfit was one of nobility, being a high-collared white suit with a black bow tie and a red and white striped undershirt. He also wore a white top hat with a purple snake and red apple. "Dad? What's wrong?" A similar-looking female demon asked, her blonde hair long and tied into 3 parts by 2 bands, letting it hang low. Unlike her father, she had redder eyes instead of black slits and wore a red suit with a white undershirt. The demon looked back at his daughter and pinched the area between his nose. "I got a message from those in heaven, they said that they were interested in your idea," he groaned, knowing that it would be a massive headache for him in the long term, having heaven's attention of his child. "Heaven is interested in my hotel," she exclaimed, feeling a sense of joy at the fact that someone besides Baggy had any sort of faith in her dream to rehabilitate sinners and allow them to leave hell and go to heaven. "Unfortunately," Lucifer growled, getting a shocked look from his daughter. "When I say heaven, I mean one particular saint insisted that God allow him to descend to hell and help you," he mentioned, feeling a sense of worry at the thought of a being from heaven being around his daughter. He was more than confident in her ability to protect herself as his progeny, but the one coming down was one of the few people to have killed and not worshipped God to reach the upper realm. A man who had fought God-like beings capable of destroying planets with ease before his death. A man from a time when humans were just as strong if not stronger than common angels and demons. A saint? Charlie repeated, having read about the humans who were considered especially holy during their lives and upon death entered a special place in heaven, reserved for only the most worthy of innocent souls. Well, maybe with his help, the hotel can really start moving things. Since he's from heaven he must know how some people might be able to get there. Not just any saint. Charlie, we're talking about a saint that predates the current world. He single-handedly ruined my influence on Earth for decades during his life. Lucifer said, enraged that his daughter thought that there was any silver lining to this. The less he had to do with heaven, the better. So having someone from there in his city. Before Charlie could respond, they heard a knocking on the door. Lucifer's eyes narrowed and could practically feel the holiness coming from the other side. Stomping over, he pulled the door open and glared up at the person on the other side. "Naruto, it's been a few thousand years," Lucifer growled at the man. Naruto, for all intent and purposes, looked completely human, with spiky blonde hair that fell to his shoulders and lightly tanned skin. His eyes were crystal blue that held a strange glow to them. On each of his sun-kissed cheeks was 3 lines, seeming like whiskers. He wore a white robe with strange comb-like markings. Over his head was a small circular light. "Quite the greeting, guess you're still sore about me kicking your ass that one time?" Naruto asked with a smirk as he walked into the mansion. "That was cards." Lucifer pointed out, jabbing a black-gloved finger into Naruto's chest. "And you cheated," he declared furiously. "Boy. Like you're one to talk." Naruto bit back at the demon. "You're the one who wanted to gamble with that city, and I didn't cheat, I just got lucky," he pointed out smugly, a wide smirk on his face as he saw Lucifer getting irritated with him. Charlie for her part was a bit shocked as Naruto and her father argued. It was clear that there was some past between the two of them. Dad did say hero in his plans, she thought to herself as the two continued to throw barbs at each other. Excuse me," the female demon interrupted the two, getting between them. The last thing hell needed was their leader getting into a fight with a saint. Naruto turned his attention to her, giving her a warm smile that warmed her cheeks. Looking at him, she could practically feel his kindness rolling off him. "Hey, Charlie started, not sure what to say to someone like him. This was her first time actually talking to someone from heaven, instead of just watching them come down and slaughter the citizens of hell, or her father who was essentially a demon but came from heaven originally. "I'm Charlie Morningstar, were you the one interested in my hotel?" she asked a bit awkwardly. Naruto's eyes widened slightly. "Yep. Name's Naruto Uzumaki, technically there's the saint title somewhere in there but please just Naruto is fine." The blonde man told the woman who smiled at the saint's casual nature. "Then please just call me Charlie too," she said, holding her hand out to the blonde to shake. "A pleasure to meet you," he said, shaking her hand, his smile widening. "Great, you're all acquainted, so can you please just take him to the hotel?" her father yelled, wanting the man out of his house as soon as possible. He was still sour about all the failed deals he made with the saint. All the lost wagers against him. Seriously, the man must have been the patron saint of luck. Wait a minute, what was he the patron saint of? That bastard. He'd been scammed. Come on. Charlie said, taking the heavenly being and taking him out to one of the limos to go to the hotel. Naruto followed the Princess of Hell to one of her family's many limos and hopped in after her. To the happy hotel. Charlie told the driver, who looked back with a concerned expression, eyes twitching towards Naruto and the ring of light above his head, clearly nervous about being so close to someone who could destroy him. "Don't worry, I have no intentions of purging anyone at the moment," Naruto said, trying to reassure the demonic driver that he wouldn't try and end his existence. Well, that didn't get rid of the driver's fear of the resident of heaven. A smile and nod from his princess did to some extent. He trusted Charlie enough to believe that the haloed man wouldn't do anything to him. As they pulled out of the home of the Morning Stars, Charlie noticed just how quiet Pentagram City was for once. Normally it was filled with sinners and hellborns living their day-to-day life and typically committing all sorts of atrocities. Yet today it was silent. "Where is everyone?" she asked, looking around through the window, concerned. "That is probably my fault," Naruto admitted, scratching the back of his head. Flashback. Everyone saw it, the brilliant white light coming down from the distant heaven in the sky. At first, it was a mere speck, but soon it grew bigger and brighter before it slammed into one of the streets, disrupting the flow of traffic. A burning sense of dread filled the onlookers as they saw someone standing up from the smoke and brimstone, a circular light hovering over his head. "Book it." A demon yelled in horror before running away, jumping into a dumpster and trying to hide from what they assumed was an exorcist that had come to purge them early for whatever reason. Raising an eyebrow, he looked around as demons ran away from him, taking shelter away from him as he walked through the streets toward where he knew the Morning Stars lived. It was so strange to him to have people running from him instead of coming to him for guidance and advice. "Funk." A demon cried out, having her leg slashed by another, in hopes that he'd stop to finish her off instead of chasing after him. A sigh escaped Naruto's lips as he approached a woman who turned and looked at him in horror. He noticed that she seemed to be a cyclops, obvious by the large red eye with a yellow X-shaped pupil. Her light pink hair was pulled up in a high ponytail and pale white skin with red freckles. She wore a tattered red tank top and black leggings. "Are you okay?" he asked, lowering himself to her level and offering a hand. "Get away from me. I don't want to die," she cried out, trying to crawl away from him despite her injured leg. Raising an eyebrow, he brought his hand towards her, golden aura coating it, careful not to use any of his heavenly energy. "Let me help you," he told her kindly. The demon closed her eye, not wanting to see her demise before a feeling of warmth filled her. She watched as her leg healed faster than it normally would have. Looking up, he saw the blonde pulling his hand back and standing up. "What? There, you should be good to go," he said, smiling before continuing on his way, leaving the demon dumbfounded. "Take care," Naruto told her, waving goodbye as he continued on his way. Flashback end. Though Charlie muttered as she didn't know what to really say at that. She felt a bit embarrassed that despite him having come here with the best intentions, her people had reacted like that. "Most of the demons in hell only know the exorcists. Sorry you didn't have a warm welcome," she said, seeming almost too sweet to be the daughter of that fool. "It's fine, after all, it's the result of centuries of purges. They only know heaven as those who hate and want them dead," Naruto replied in an understanding tone, not taking many insults with the reaction he got from hell. "So why did you want to help? I figure as a saint you're well established in heaven, so why come all the way here?" she asked, wondering just why anyone from there would want to help her to begin with. Heaven never made any attempt to help the people of hell, only ever dealing with their overpopulation by coming down and slaughtering them. Not a real solution in her eyes, just cold and cruel. "Well, when I was a human, I always felt that people could be redeemed. That they could become better people with time and understanding. I believe that people aren't born evil, they become evil because of the world around them pushing them too far. So they shouldn't be punished if they try and correct their mistakes. If they want to change for the better, then they should have the chance to be redeemed and escape this place," Naruto told her. The teachings of Jiraiya always remained fresh in his mind. Even in death. Charlie has stars in her eyes at the thought that someone didn't see her ideals as foolhardy and actually agreed with her vision for the future. "So does this mean heaven agrees too?" Charlie asked, excited at the prospect that the Holy Realm would be on board with her plan to alleviate the population of sinners without murdering them. No, Naruto sighed, bringing Charlie's fantasy to a screeching halt. They all felt that sinners had no real desire to redeem themselves in any way. "I only got approved to come down because I bet my position that I could redeem a sinner," Naruto mentioned, getting a wide-eyed look from Charlie at the new information. "You bet your position? What if you lose?" Charlie asked, worried that the saint may have staked everything on her project. "I'll be erased from existence most likely," he mentioned casually. Looking at the Princess of Hell, he winced at the horrified expression on her face. "Don't worry, I've never lost a bet in my life, Charlie. Just ask Lucy, I taught him that lesson plenty of times," he said, trying to calm her down a bit by seeming confident in his choice. Maybe he shouldn't have told her just how high the stakes were for him. You put your existence on the line for me? Charlie asked, awed by how far the man seemed to believe in her plan. No one so far had more than humored her, even Vaggie only helped her out because of their budding relationship. If not for that, then the sinner demoness wouldn't have batted an eye at her plan. But here was someone who was willing to die for her vision without having ever met her. People can make their own destiny, Charlie. They can change their lives. Just because they made some mistakes in the past doesn't mean they should be punished for all eternity. If heaven can't see that, then I don't want to live in a place like that, Naruto told the blonde demon. Everyone deserves the right to fight for a better future. He stated, his conviction evident to anyone. Even the limo driver was moved to tears at the proclamation, regardless how foolish it was. I agree. Charlie said, moved by his words. Charlie, I stood around watching for a long time. I've seen plenty of exterminations in my time. I've seen plenty of souls lost when they could have been redeemed instead. Maybe of which I personally knew from my life. I don't want to see more of them, he stated firmly, hating the sight of all those souls being exterminated permanently. Everyone I knew from my time was lost to them over time. Even my wife from when I was a human, he added. Very few people had been allowed into heaven from his time. Every shinobi had some blood on their hands. Each carried dark secrets. Only a few ever did enough good to redeem themselves in God's eyes. Him, Asura, Hashirama, and Hagoromo being among the few in heaven still from his time. He had been heartbroken when he learned that Jiraiya had been sent to hell because of his lust. He knew that there were plenty of demons who didn't want to be redeemed. Demons who would rather die than work on bettering themselves. But he also knew that there were some who wanted to be better. Charlie took his hands and looked him in the eyes. I promise, I will not fail you, Naruto. You put your trust in me, and I will not make you regret that, she swore, smiling at him brightly, not willing to let the one person in the universe that saw eye to eye with her be reduced to nothing because of her dream. Anyone ever told you that you don't act like you're a demon? Naruto laughed as he leaned back against the sinfully comfy seat. Charlie blushed a bit at the comment, since certain people had seen a different side of her that she didn't show openly. Sometimes, she answered, moving a strand of blonde hair off her face. The limo came to a stop in front of a hotel that clearly had seen better days in the past. We're here. Charlie announced, getting out of the car followed by the blonde citizen of heaven. I know it's not a lot right now, Charlie started feeling a bit nervous at his potential reaction to the rundown state of the property. But we're working on improving it. She said, opening the door for him. Charlie, are you Bomirda? A female demon said, going around the corner before panicking at the sight of the blonde saint. She had dull lavender-colored skin with white hair cut almost in the style of feathers with stripes at the bottom, the same color as her skin, with a damaged bow on her right eye, a white iris and a light pink sclera. Instead of a left eye, she had an eye patch with a red X on it. She wore a dark pink short-sleeved blouse with a black collar and a similarly colored skirt. Lastly were her dark gray leggings with white waves on top. Naruto raised an eyebrow at the spear being pointed at him. Maldito angel, she growled, ready to fight like her life depended on it because she was certain that it did. Aggie, wait. Charlie yelled, rushing between them before her new girlfriend insulted he knew her business partner. He's here to help us. She announced. Help us, Charlie, did you miss the halo over his head? His kind only come down to hell to kill demons. Vaggie yelled at her lover. She had seen how they killed demons every year, cutting them to pieces and leaving them as nothing but chunks of meat on the streets. It didn't matter who it was, anyone was fair game to them. Give him a chance, Vaggie, Charlie said, putting her hand on hers and lowering the harpoon. The female demon looked at Naruto before sighing and taking a step away from the saint. Name's Naruto Uzumaki. I caught wind of Charlie's idea and figured I'd come down and help her see it through, he said, offering Vaggie his hand to shake, only for her to narrow her eye on him. Sighing, he pulled the hand back and looked around the area. The place seemed good, it had seen better days, but it had everything needed for a good hotel. So what do you think? Charlie asked, feeling a bit nervous as the former shinobi looked around the hotel's lobby. It was dirty, covered in cobwebs, and looked like a tornado had run through. A chandelier dropped down next to the princess who moved in front of it and gave him a wide anxious smile. It could use some work, Naruto said, flicking off a spider, but with a bit of hard work and elbow grease, I'm sure that we could turn this place around. Naruto said, crossing his fingers. One of his favorite parts of his afterlife was retaining his human-like body and his chakra network. Creating 20 clones, he sent them off to start cleaning the place up a bit. Aggie clenched her harpoon as she watched the blonde multiply and start moving about the hotel. What is your angle? She asked the original one, who smiled as his clones start to do their job. I still don't understand why you want this place to succeed, Vaggie said, not trusting the man not to somehow harm them. Angle? You got it wrong, Vaggie. I believe that anyone can become a better person if given a proper chance. Maybe not everyone will take that chance, but I'm sure some would be willing, Naruto said sitting down on a couch, a cloud of dust puffing out from the cushion. And frankly I hate the thought of people being killed. People being sinner demons in this case, he added, blowing the dust away with a gust of wind. You can clone yourself? Charlie asked, finding the saint's magic interesting. She was already thinking of ways that the skill could be useful for them. They could spread so many pamphlets. Yep. I can make around 10,000 clones at the moment. He told them as he created another one next to him and pinched his cheek, and each is completely physical, he mentioned much to the clone's annoyance. And conscious too. What's with all the holy hunks? A third person asked, entering the lobby from a stairwell. A white-furred demon asked. They had a rather effeminate look to them with blotches of pink on his white and a puffed-out chest framed in a heart-shaped hole in his pink and white striped top. Like many of the descendants of hell, he had changed colored eyes with one being with a pink iris, while the other was black with a similarly colored iris. Naruto also noticed the extra set of arms coming out of his torso. Angel, this is Naruto Uzumaki, he'll be working with us from now on to help redeem you. Naruto, this is Angel Dust, one of our clients, Charlie said, introducing the two to one another. Our only client, Baggy pointed out much to Charlie's dismay. Wanna funk? Angel asked Naruto giving him a flat look in return. I'm not into dudes. Babe I can be whatever you want, he purred, walking 2 fingers up Naruto's arm, but the blonde pulled his arm away and stood up. Come on Mr. Angel, I take you all the way back to heaven. Angel said in a suggestive tone. As I said, I'm not into guys, Naruto growled pulsing his heavenly energy around his body, burning Angel's fingers at the touch. Ow. You bastard. Angel yelled in pain, hands smoking from coming into contact with the radiating white energy that coated the blonde saint. Looking back at Charlie and Baggy, so what is he here to threaten me to behave? He asked feeling that maybe his benefactors had decided that they needed to get someone to keep him in line by force, instead of trusting him. Nope. Naruto said standing up from the couch and walking over to a fridge and finding nothing but some ice pops inside. I want people to be able to live a better life away from this place and not have the threat of being slaughtered yearly just to keep the population in check, he told Angel Dust with a kind smile on his face, making the spider demon's face glow red. Stupid cute asshole, Angel grumbled, crossing his forearms and looking away from him. So what's this place's budget? Naruto asked, given that it was being run by the Princess of Hell, Lucifer must have allocated some funding for the hotel to have staff and services to help redeem people. Nothing Baggy answered pinching the bridge of her nose. Naruto was lost for words. He genuinely didn't know what to say in response to that. Did Lucifer have so little faith in his daughter's vision that he didn't even bother giving them some money to function until they got everything set up? The ground under Naruto cracked slightly as he lost control over his power slightly. Your father didn't give you any funding at all? Naruto asked, barely containing his anger towards the fallen angel. Charlie looked down shaking her head, he said it would be a waste of money, she informed the blonde who looked more irritated now than when Angel tried to flirt with him. Naruto? Charlie asked, concerned for the saint and her father if she was honest. When it came to hell, there were none stronger than Lucifer, but she knew that her father had been kicked out of heaven, meaning there might be others there stronger than him. I'll be right back, Naruto said vanishing in a flash of golden light. But the holy being gone, Baggy decided to vent her thoughts to her lover without reserve. Charlie, we can't keep him around. You saw what he did to Angel, imagine if he got angry. He can kill someone. Not just hurt or mutilate, he can actually kill demons. What if he decides that someone isn't worth it? He's a danger to everyone in hell. Baggy yelled at Charlie feeling that keeping the former shinobi around was too dangerous. Angel started to inch away from the two as he could tell that Charlie wanted to keep the hunk around. To be fair he understood why. Having been told by everyone in hell that her idea of redemption was stupid, having someone appear and say that he felt the same way as her must have been amazing. Baggy, he said he bet God his position in heaven to come help. He put his trust in us, in the hotel. The least we can do is trust him, Charlie said back, not wanting to dismiss the only person who agreed with her just because he was sent to heaven instead of hell. If anything, that made him more trustworthy in her eyes. And what if he lied? Baggy asked in return. What if that whole story is a lie and he's just here to try and hurt you and your family? She questioned. Charlie understood why Baggy was being so anxious about the blonde. She was a sinner demon, she wasn't like her or her family who could take on any exorcist that came heaven. She could easily be killed by them. And given the way he interacted with her father, she was certain that he wasn't a run-of-the-mill innocent soul that went to heaven. Baggy, please give him a chance, for me? She asked, placing a hand on her lover's shoulder. If he's from heaven, then he's more likely than not a good person. Remember, he's not an angel, he used to be human, Charlie reminded her girlfriend. Fine, I'll give him a chance, Baggy relented again earning a hug from her girlfriend. Naruto appeared back at the Morningstar household and kicked the door open, interrupting the King of Hell as he was mid-musical number. "Lucifer." He yelled at the man, storming into the mansion, his face contorted in anger. "What do you want? I thought you were helping Charlie with her project," he asked, clearly upset that his song had been interrupted by the fellow blonde. "How funked in the head do you have to be not to at least give your own daughter some money for the hotel? Even if you don't believe in it, you should at least give her a chance," he growled at the fallen angel who glared back at him. "I am not gonna go and burn money on a stupid project like that hotel, you holy asshole," Lucifer growled back as the two approached one another. "Charlie needs to learn that she's wasting her time," he told Naruto. "Do you not love your daughter?" "I love my daughter, that's why I don't want to see her hurt when her dreams are shattered," Lucifer told the blonde. "Then you should help her instead of putting her down, you stupid idiot," Naruto retorted. Their power leaked out more and more the closer each got to the other. Lucifer's shadow grew, mirroring his true form, while Naruto seemed to gain 9 massive tails behind him. Their auras clashed against one another as they neared one another in a struggle for supremacy. "Oh? You're approaching me?" Lucifer asked, cracking his fingers, his mouth contorting into a wicked grin, showing off his razor-sharp teeth. Clenching his fist, white flame-like energy coated his lower arm. "How else am I supposed to beat the shit out of you?" Naruto replied as he locked eyes with the man. The area around them started to shake and crack. "I could wipe you out in an instant," the fallen angel threatened as the two stopped just a foot away from one another. Their focus so intensely on the other that they were ignorant of the effects they were having on the world around them. Happy Hotel. Baggy and Angel were on the floor gasping for air, waves of pressure washing over them as they felt like the entire world was ending. Charlie felt it too, but thanks to her heritage were capable withstand it more than 2 sinner demons. "What are they doing?" she asked, feeling her father's energy, as well as another pure energy which she assumed was Naruto's. "Hang on you two," she said before running to stop the two before they destroyed all of hell. IMP headquarters. 3 horned demons were on the floor gasping for air. Their entire office shaking violently as they felt a crushing weight on them. In the corner, a gray and white-haired wolf-like woman held her head in agony. "Moxie? What the hell is going on?" The taller male imp asked the shorter one, confused as to this sudden pressure. "I don't know, sir." The shorter male imp replied, crawling to hold the female imp. "Funk. Is the world ending?" The wolf woman growled. Her eyes had blood sclera and wider eyes, with dark gray eyeshadow matching her fur. Her messy silver long hair swept to the side to reveal her ears, the right one being slightly torn while the left had 2 ring-like piercings. She wore a spiked black choker around her neck and a torn off the shoulder crop top held up by strings in the shape of a pentagram. She wore tattered shorts with a crescent moon on the right side. She felt like her heart was gonna explode out of her chest. Language loony. Lust ring. A massive crowd of demons lay before a stage in pain. The air distorted as waves of power washed over them. On the stage a curvaceous pink demon held her head. She had pink bat-like wings with black splotches on them, along with black-tipped pink horns, each with a stare under the black part. She was wearing a skimpy outfit of a black thong and X-shaped pasties on her free synth boots. "Tex. What's happening?" she asked, unable to stand up. It felt like her entire body was refusing to move. Pride Ring Pentagram City. Standing amidst the downed citizens of the city, one demon in red grinned madly, gripping a microphone tightly as he looked towards the source of the overwhelming feeling with mad anticipation. "How entertaining," he said in a voice filled with radio static. In the large mansion, 3 bird-like demons watched as they felt their lord's power fighting against another being's. "Oh my, I wonder what's gotten Lucifer all up in arms." The Soul Melul demon gasped. His red eyes were wide in anticipation, he worried how his dear imp was holding up against this crushing power. "Dad, what's going on?" A younger female owl demon asked the male. She was tall and thin like her father with wild gray feathers. Her eyes were dark pink with white pupils and lavender eyeshadow and long eyelashes framing her eyes. The owl demon's face looked almost like a heart-shaped white mask with the tip being black. She wore a black shawl around her shoulders on top of a pink dress with stars on it, a black beanie on her head with a white line with 3 spikes going up, making it seem like a crown. "I don't know Via, but something has King Lucifer furious," the father owl replied, hoping for the best. "Stop it, you two," Charlie pleaded, running into her home to find her father and Naruto almost coming to fists. Their power raged around them before they looked towards her. "Do you guys know what's going on outside?" she asked as they powered down and took a step back from the other. Charlie let out a sigh of relief as the two avoided a fight. "TCH, look what you did, you my house," Lucifer complained, seeing the cracks running across his floor and up his walls. "Oh, shut it, Fassel," Naruto replied, dispersing the energy around his arm. "Now are you gonna give Charlie funding or what?" "Let me think," Lucifer said, tapping his chin. "Hell no. Naruto thought about punching the man across the face, but looking at the hurt expression on Charlie's face, he sighed before getting an idea. Then how about a bet, Lucifer? Naruto suggested, bringing his hand up towards the man. You give us enough money to help clean up the hotel and make repairs. Then if we fail to redeem anyone, I'll tell you Michael's most embarrassing secret. One that only me, Gabriel, and God know. I'll even throw in my soul. If we succeed, you apologize to Charlie and we don't have to pay you back, the blonde saint offered to the king of hell. It was a bad deal. He knew it was a bad deal. He knew that Naruto never lost a bet. He knew that the saint would rather die than give up. He knew that Naruto was playing to his pride. He knew that he was being baited. But that shit-eating grin on the bastard's face. The confident glint in his eyes. The number of times that the blonde had funked his plans. And having something over Michael of all beings. Or are you a peep? Naruto whispered, a malicious look in his eyes. You're on. Lucifer roared, grasping Naruto's hand, a brilliant light filling the room as their deal was made and sealed. Funk. Lucifer growled as he looked at his hand. Naruto had baited him into yet another gamble. I'll go get the money, he muttered, leaving Naruto and his daughter to grab the agreed-upon money. Naruto snickered before turning back towards Charlie, who looked sad and still that her father had so little faith in her vision. Hey, he said, placing a hand on her shoulder, I promise we'll make him eat his words. And that's a promise of a lifetime, Charlie, Naruto told without a shred of doubt in his voice. Thank you, Naruto, Charlie said, hugging the blonde. Oh, Charlie whispered to herself as she and Naruto toured the hotel, while several dozen demons worked around them, fixing up much of the damage that was done to the place. They all looked weary of Naruto, but at least it kept them in line enough to focus on their work instead of goofing off. Given that they were in hell, there were very few consequences for being a bad person. Many things were simply overlooked as long as you were powerful or had a powerful benefactor behind you that could ward off anyone who thought of getting revenge against you, and even then they couldn't kill you. Lucifer himself ran a rather loose ship, letting things figure themselves out while he laid back and enjoyed whatever he wanted to do. This was why there was very little respect for the royal family, despite the immense power the fallen angel wielded. Naruto fixed this, at least for the hotel. He was someone who naturally gave off an aura that unnerved any demon who earned his ire. The halo over his head was all anyone needed to see to know that if he wanted to, Naruto could possibly kill them for good. While she wasn't exactly thrilled at the idea of having people work under the threat of eternal death, it was better than them running off with the money. What do you think? The blonde asked as the once wrecked lobby was now more polished, with the debris now fully removed. It was rapidly starting to come together now that it looked less abandoned. This is amazing. Charlie exclaimed as her dream of building a place where people could be rehabilitated and redeem themselves was looking more and more possible now that they weren't working out of an abandoned building. Naruto smiled and went over to talk to the construction manager, who was telling it some demons who had decided to take a nap on a demonic-looking sofa. I gotta say, I'm a bit impressed, Vaggie said, a bit inspired by how the blonde had managed to convince Charlie's father to give them the money they needed to start fixing the place up. For as long as she had known the King of Hell, he never gave Charlie's idea and merit and refused to help them in any way aside from giving the property to his daughter to do as she pleased. How'd he do it? She asked her partner. Charlie's expression dropped as he recalled what Naruto did to get her father to agree to help them with money. He bet his soul and some dude called Michael's secret on the hotel succeeding again, Charlie said, knowing that even if heaven didn't destroy him for losing, he'd still be enslaved by her father afterward if he survived whatever heaven had in store for him if he lost his bet. Vaggie fell silent at the news, looking at the saint who was instructing some anxious demons as to what repairs to make. She couldn't help but feel a bit bad about judging him so soon. He had assumed that he lied about betting everything on them, but that was because neither she nor Charlie had witnessed that deal, but her girlfriend had seen it. She saw Naruto and Lucifer make the deal in person and shake on it, sealing it with their magic. Not only that, Vaggie had felt it. The sheer power that Naruto and Lucifer were unleashing upon hell. Twin titans of unrivaled power could shake the world to its core. Looking at the cheerful blonde, she couldn't help but be anxious about it, even if there was no denying anymore that he wanted to help them. He made a literal deal with the devil for Charlie. Charlie looked at the blonde saint as he ordered the reluctant demons around the hotel, making sure that they were actually doing what they were paying them to do instead of just sitting around. She could see why he was sent to heaven. Even when interacting with demons, he didn't discriminate against them. Her admiration for him grew by the second. I'll be right back. She said, going to talk to her new hero. Angel chuckled as he nudged Vaggie's side, much to her annoyance. Careful Toots, you might just lose your gal to him, Angel joked, seeing the stars in Charlie's eyes whenever the heavenly blonde was around helping them. Not that I would blame her, I saw him coming out of the shower yesterday and damn. I want a piece for myself. he stated, wiping some drool from his mouth before feeling a pain in his foot as Baggy stomped on his toes. Shut it. The female sinner demon growled, not wanting to think about a situation like that. Looking over, she flinched a bit as the two blondes talked to one another about ongoing construction. Don't let him get in your head, Vagatha, she told herself as Charlie walked over to her. You okay? Her blonde lover asked, seeing the concerned look on Vaggy's face for a split second. Well, it was more she saw Naruto's eyes flicker over to her which drew her attention to her beloved. Yeah, I'm fine, Charlie, she said, putting on a brave face, not wanting to admit her hidden jealousy at how close the two blondes were getting. It's just a bit overwhelming how fast everything is happening, Vaggy told the princess. I know. Charlie exclaimed, clearly overjoyed by how things had turned around for them. In just a few days her dream had gone from nearly hopeless to actually being a possible reality with Naruto in her corner. Look. She yelled, dragging Vaggy over to where the front desk was now. We got an actual lobby. That's great, Vaggy replied, rubbing her arm a bit. I wonder why Lucifer accepted his deal. I mean, all this for a single soul and some secret that could just be made up. He played to Dad's pride. I guess they have some history together, Charlie answered, recalling how her father reacted to Naruto's presence. It was clear to anyone who saw the two together that they had met on more than one occasion, and it seemed that it almost always ended in Naruto's favor. Lucifer seemed to hold a great amount of hatred and respect for his adversary. And for Lucifer to respect someone in any way was a monumental accomplishment. I wonder how many times your dad lost to him. Vaggy wondered out loud. It was insane that Lucifer could have so much beef with someone that they'd give in to some taunting just for the slightest chance to prove them wrong. That person being a former human of all things. She could understand him having a problem with angels or God himself, but a human. Dad was actually upset that he accepted the deal. He told me that Naruto was the type of person that never gives up, even if he had to fight God himself he wouldn't blink if he believed in his cause wholeheartedly. And he would fight until he couldn't move, and even then he would keep going, Charlie told Vaggy, who was shocked to hear that Lucifer had actually said such high remarks about the blonde. For the first time ever, Dad said he felt that my dream was possible if Naruto was on our side, she added on in admiration. However, looking at Charlie's face, Vaggy knows that it must have been a massive blow to Charlie's pride. Why so glum? Naruto asked, looking back at them, almost as if having felt Charlie's sadness. Creating a clone, he left it to tend to the construction while he talked to the two demonesses. Of course, he could have made clones himself to do the work, but he wasn't the best at construction, and giving some of the local demons some work could help improve his image among them. It's nothing, Charlie lied, but a stern look from the holy being told her that he wasn't buying her bluff. Deciding to just get the conversation over with, she took a deep breath and just let it out. Dad never believed in me, but as soon as you put your hat in the ring, he faltered. He admitted that with you around, we might succeed, the princess told him. It hurt that her father held Naruto in higher competence than her. It was then that he understood. It hurt hearing that your father had more faith in his enemy accomplishing something than his own flesh and blood. For Lucifer to say that her dream could only be accomplished thanks to him, meant that without him, she was a failure in his eyes. Well, me and Lucy have some history. Back when I was alive, he did a good job getting people into a culture where they'd kill each other constantly. Very few people actually went to heaven from my time, because most had killed dozens if not hundreds of people, Naruto admitted, much to Vaggy's shock. She knew people down here for killing one person in a fit of rage, but to purposely go and kill hundreds of people, it was insane. Kidnapping, forced breeding, experimentation, none of those things were alien concepts in my time, he told them, making sure they understood just how far his people were on the path of evil. Did you kill anyone? Vaggy questioned, earning her a slow nod from Naruto. How did you get into heaven then? She asked, wondering how someone could murder another and yet still get into heaven, while people had done far less and gotten sent straight to hell. I had the added benefit of being the child of prophecy and the savior of the world. So I got an express ticket to heaven after I died, since according to them all my good deeds and my virtuous way of life exceeded my sins so much that they would overlook them, Naruto responded, getting wide-eyed looks from the two. Wait, roll that back, Charlie said, stopping the blonde before he could go on. What do you mean you were the savior of the world? Dad said you were special, but what did you do? Charlie asked, wondering what someone had to do to be called the savior of the world. No one human had ever single-handed saved the entire world. If I remember correctly, it was when we fought Kagaya, an alien princess with godlike powers, after she was released from inside the moon. Or maybe when Toneri tried to drop the moon on the earth, Naruto answered, recalling that was the first time that he really saved the entire world. It hadn't been his toughest battle, that belonging to Isiki, but it certainly was the first time he could say that he saved the world. I saved the world a few times, to be honest. Vaggy took a moment to process what Naruto had told them. Even to someone who had lived in hell for a few years, it was a bit hard to wrap her head around it all. Tried to drop the what? She asked, needing clarification. She had been told that he was an innocent soul from heaven who had been granted a special position. But what he was describing was something out of a comic book. It was literally insanity. The moon, the giant ball of rock in the sky, used to house a godlike alien woman named Kaguya Otsutsuki. Well anyways, her descendant Tenari ended up cutting it in half when I went up there to stop him from dropping it on the earth. Luckily it managed to mend together again afterward, Naruto mentioned casually, since it had been rather normal for him back during his life. He knew humans were now a shadow of what they used to be, but he was dead and currently in hell. So he didn't care much about keeping it a secret. Baggy and Charlie shared a look, not knowing what to say. It really did sound like some sort of fantasy, but Naruto didn't seem to be lying. Are you sure you were human? Charlie asked him, wondering if maybe Naruto had really been some sort of god from another pantheon. Or maybe a part demon. Yeah, most people in my time could use chakra, Naruto told them. His people were long gone at this point, just a few lingering in heaven. The only ones he recalled off the top of his head were Hashirama, Asura, Hagoromo, Hamura, Am, and Tucci. I just could do it on a larger scale. He said, holding his hand up and forming a bright blue orb of chakra which mesmerized the two women. But how? I couldn't do that. Baggy asked, feeling a bit cheated that apparently at one point humans could perform feats of magic like demons could, but without being condemned to hell. He talked about it all like it was just another normal part of life. Dispersing his Rasengan, his face soured, God flooded the earth, wiped away almost all life, Naruto answered plainly, hating how God's answer to humanity is going out of control, was to just engulf the planet in water, pick a handful of things to survive and carry on like millions weren't just drowned and died. Sometimes chakra pops up here and there in teardown forms, he mentioned, recalling that someone had been born a while ago, that Hagoromo had said might be the reincarnation of the lingering embers of Asura's chakra still left in the system. People called him Buddha or something. Sometimes myths pop up from the scrolls that survived the flood. I think the Uchiha clan scrolls eventually got turned into Shintoism. He mentioned to them as he recalled hearing from the monk who went to heaven about all the gods of Japan, including Amaterasu, Tsukiyomi, and Susanoo, all of which were jutsus used by Itachi Uchiha with his Mangekyou Sharingan. He wondered how the man would react knowing his eyes gave birth to a whole pantheon of beliefs. Damn, no wonder you got a godly booty, Angel commented, checking out the blonde's face. Seriously, it must have been made of steel. Rolling his eyes, Naruto turned back to Charlie and patted her shoulder. Long story short, during my life and even before I died, Lucy tried to corrupt my people. To tempt us back onto a darker path. It got to the point that he confronted me in person, Naruto told them, recalling the first time that he had met Lucifer. Flashback. Naruto arrived near a village near the outskirts of the Land of Fire, where people had begun to act in extreme ways. People seemed to have completely lost control of themselves. The squad of Chunin that he'd sent to investigate never returned, so he decided to go inspect it himself. And the moment he arrived he could see what the reports meant by having lost control. People were funking in the streets without regard for public decency. Stores were being broken into and robbed clean by the citizens of the village, some even fighting with one another to steal what another had stolen, going as far as committing murder to accomplish it. Hokage-sama, a female shinobi from Konoha, moaned out, rushing towards her with a goofy smile on her face. He could smell the alcohol on her as she wrapped her arms him. He recognized her as a member of the squad he'd sent here. You're so strong, Hokage-sama, she cooed, rubbing her body against him. Boy. Naruto grunted, pushing her off him. Genjutsu. He muttered as the poor woman giggled, grabbing a bottle of sake from her bag and starting to drink it down, not caring if her leader was watching. He noticed that despite being a kunoichi, she was barely wearing any clothing. How dare you? Another shinobi yelled, rushing at his leader with a kunai in hand, only to be disarmed in an instant. Funk you bastard. He shouted before being knocked out by his leader. What's going on here? He wondered, going deeper into the town. He could sense powerful darkness deep near the center of town. As he approached, he found the clown-looking being laughing as a band of naked people played some stupid music. The being looked back at Naruto with a twisted grin, and look who showed up. The Grand Killjoy. He announced for everyone to hear. All around them, people began to boo the Hokage, telling him to leave their city to their sin. Well, looks like you're not wanted here. Lucifer laughed at the leader of the Hidden Leaf. Naruto could tell that this man wasn't normal. He didn't have any chakra in him. He didn't even feel like an Otsutsuki despite his pale white skin. Who are you? He asked the fallen angel. I'm Lucifer, the king of hell, you funkwad. Now how about you join us or get the funk out? The king of hell asked, not liking the presence of the powerful shinobi. Or you could let these people go of whatever illusion you trap them in, Naruto replied, starting to draw unnatural energy into himself, a glow starting to radiate from him as he powered up in case this self-proclaimed king of hell turns hostile and began to attack him. Ooh. Scar Lucifer started in a mock fearful tone before a fist found itself wrist deep in his mouth. The demon was launched by the sheer force of the impact, knocking him out of the two. The people started to slowly come to as soon as Lucifer was far enough away, returning back to normal as if nothing happened. Rushing after the creature, he found him nursing his cheek, a trail of level trees behind him. Noticing the glowing Hokage, Lucifer glared at the blonde man. "You funking fasshole. That actually hurt." He yelled at the man who ruined his plans for Earth when he helped bring peace. "Good, maybe it'll teach you a lesson about funking with people," Naruto replied, not feeling bad in the slightest for hurting the creature. He had called himself the king of hell, yet he didn't quite look like much of a threat. "Now what do you want?" The seventh Hokage demanded, figuring that the demon must have come to the mortal world for some reason. "Or are we gonna have to do this the hard way?" "What do I want?" Lucifer repeated before grinning like a madman. "I want to destroy everything you worked so hard to accomplish. And bring this world back to how it should be." Flicking his tongue, Naruto got into a fighting stance, "Like I'd let you do that." Naruto growled. "Ha. Fighting a human would be too easy, how about we play a game?" Lucifer asked, figuring that while he was on Earth, he'd have some fun with the locals. After all, he had all the time in the universe to play around. This was all to give the jackass upstairs a headache anyways. "You win, I leave your pathetic race alone for a year. I win, your soul is mine." Lucifer sat down and summoned a cup with 3 dice. Naruto looked a bit disgusted at the fact that the dots on the dice were actually tiny red eyes. "Sure," he agreed, sitting down across from the man. "Hope you're ready to lose." Flashback end. "And he lost badly," Naruto commented, finishing recalling his first encounter for the fallen angel with a small chuckle. From then on, the two would have regular encounters from time to time, whenever Lucifer decided to try and make a move on humanity. "Eventually I died, but being me, that didn't exactly stop me from running out of heaven to mess with his plan. You should have seen his face when I showed up after I kicked the bucket." Charlie and Baggy couldn't hold back their laughter at the mental image of Lucifer losing his cool seeing Naruto after his death. "I guess I can see why he believes in you so much, losing so many times against you likely left an imprint," Baggy said, knowing that losing against someone as many times as Naruto implied would likely warp Lucifer's perception of the man. "Right on his fast from being spanked," Angel added. Naruto sighed but looked back at Charlie, "So that's probably why he feels that way. As Baggy said, he's lost to me enough times to know not to underestimate me," he stated with a wide grin plastered on his face. "But remember, even with me here I can't do it without your help, Charlie, after all you're the heart of this whole operation," he mentioned, tapping her on the forehead. "The heart?" Charlie repeated, wondering what he meant. "Yep. Think about it this way, without you I wouldn't be here regardless. Without you the idea of redeeming sinners would never have come to the surface. Heaven and hell would have continued as usual without change," he said, sitting on the many couches in the lobby. "And let's face it, I could never do it alone. Your people fear me, it's why they're working so hard here to fix the place up. They're scared if they don't that I'll just destroy them. They need someone from hell to push the idea, and who better than their lovely princess." Charlie's cheeks flushed slightly at the compliment. "Thanks," she said, feeling a bit better now. Of course, she still wished that her father trusted her to achieve her goal, but she understood why her father had such a view on the blonde. "I think I'm gonna turn in for the day, Baggy?" she asked, looking at her lover, who smiled and nodded. It had been a long day of work at the hotel and she needed to relax. As the two walked out towards their bedroom, Angel walked up to Naruto and gave him a small smirk. "Who do you think will be the one plowing?" he asked the blonde, who gave him a small side glare. "Is all you think about sex?" Naruto asked, wondering just how much work they'd have to do with the hotel's first client. Lust was by all accounts a sin, and that alone could keep people out of heaven if present to an extreme. "Sex and drugs typically," Angel replied, sitting next to the saint, who sighed and pinched the bridge of his nose. "What?" the spider demon asked, seeing the annoyed look on Naruto's face. "How do you expect to get into heaven if all you think about is sex and drugs?" Naruto asked the spider demon, whose expression soured at the question of his lifestyle. "I don't know. That's for you bozos to figure out," Angel deflected, feeling that if they wanted to get him into heaven, then it was up to them to figure out how to get him in. End of the day, he was here to have a free place to live away from the shithole he was in before. If he somehow managed to get into heaven, then it was just a bonus. Plus he would get him away from him. A rare frown found its way onto the blonde's face as he figured out that Angel wasn't exactly serious about his part in all this as a client. "You know this is a moot point if you don't actually try and get better, right?" Naruto questioned, making sure that Angel knew that he was just wasting his time if he didn't try and get redeem himself. "Well, that sucks, but I guess I can always keep trying, right, hot buns?" Angel replied, not really caring either way. He knew why he was in hell, and his behavior didn't change at all between life and death. If anything, it just grew to more extremes thanks to his now unkillable body. I guess you can, Naruto said as he stood up and started to walk towards the exit. After all, we have all the time in the world, he told Angel as he looked back and gave him a wide smirk that made the spider's hair stand on edge. Neither Lucifer nor God ever set a time limit for our deal, so as long as neither me nor Charlie gives up on this place, I'll keep trying. After all, Charlie seems to have faith in you, the blonde stated before leaving the hotel. Angel watched as the door closed behind the saint, a bit lost in thought. Whatever, he muttered before getting a phone call. Looking at the caller, he couldn't help but wince. Walking down the streets of Pentagram City, he couldn't help but notice how any demon who crossed his path instantly moved out of his way. It partly reminded him of how some people treated him back when he was a human child as Kurama's Jinchuriki before he proved himself a hero. Well, this brings back bad memories, he muttered to himself before hearing old-styled American music and radio static up ahead. Looking forwards, he saw a slim red-themed demon with pale skin, just a few shades darker than Charlie's white skin, with a wide smile filled with dangerously sharp yellow teeth. Like many of the demons of hell, he stood at an impressive 7 feet tall. His hair was dark pink color styled in a short bob cut, with 2 parts sticking upwards resembling deer ears with black around the bottom of the cut and the top of the tufts. He could also see 2 small black antlers poking up from his hair. The sclera of his eyes was dark red with brighter irises and slit pupils. He wore a red pinstriped suit with black pants and a black bow tie. The demon seemed to happily be listening to his own music as he walked down the street towards the blonde. One demon ran away from him only to look forwards and see he was sprinting toward Naruto. Looking back and forth between the two, the small blue demon pulled out a gun and shot itself in the mouth as the two crossed it. By the nerve of some people, not even enough courtesy to say hello, the demon said in regards to the demon who decided to blow his head off instead of just passing by one of the two. The demon's voice sounded like an old-timey radio host as he spoke to the saint. Alistair's the name, my angelic fellow. The demon said, taking Naruto's hand and shaking it vigorously. Naruto, rare to see a demon who isn't scared of me, the blonde said as the suit-wearing demon just smiled widely. Ha! I may be a lot of things, but a fool is not one of them. The demon said with a happy tone. If you really wanted to kill me, we would already be fighting, Alistair stated, knowing that if anyone really wanted to pick a fight with him, then it would have been much more obvious, and he would have likely already attempted to end his life. Besides, it would be rude of me to assume your intentions, haha. He laughed. Fair point, Naruto shrugged, not minding someone not running away from him. Of course, he could tell that the deer-like demon was likely extremely powerful, given that the other lesser demons were fleeing in fear from him as well. I was taking a walk around the city, it's my first time in hell, he mentioned. Oh, I love taking strolls. Come. I was just on my way to the cannibal colony, a lovely place despite its name, the demon invited, hoping to have some fun with the blonde saint. It wasn't every day one had the chance to walk and talk with something so foreign to hell. Naruto didn't know what to think about visiting a place called Cannibal Colony, but if he wanted to help out the people of hell, then he couldn't be prejudiced against people here unless they were completely unredeemable. I don't know if that's a good idea, most demons tend to be a bit intimidated by me, he mentioned, figuring that it might cause Alistair some unneeded hassle. Nonsense. Just stick with me, and all should be fine, Alistair said, his smile widening. Sighing, Naruto stepped to the side, led the way, then he told the sinner demon, figuring that he had nothing better to do. Welcome to the cannibal colony, Alistair announced as the two entered what looked to be a small town stuck in the past. Naruto instantly noticed the smell of blood in the air around the town and the sound of animals tearing into flesh reaching his ears. Don't worry, they do bite. He joked, laughing as they turned the corner and spotted 4 female demons devouring another. Good morning, ladies. Alistair. They exclaimed in joy at the sight of the radio demon. The looks of adoration and love in their eyes told him just how beloved his guide was by the cannibalistic demons of this part of hell. However, as saw Naruto behind him, their smiles widened. You brought us an innocent soul. One asked, licking her lips in anticipation of possibly eating a resident of heaven, a treat very few in the entirety of hell could ever hope to taste. Of course, they could feel that Naruto was strong, but they figured that Alistair could probably manage him. Apologies, ladies, but a saintly friend here is on a tour of your lovely town. Maybe next time. He told them. He knew the general attitude towards outsiders here. If they didn't fit the general theme of the town, they were considered food by the residents. Tell Rosie we'll stop by on our way out, he said, throwing his hat at them, one of them clutching it and hugging the hate against her chest. You're popular here, it seems, Naruto stated, watching the 4 return to the body they were tearing into before they interrupted them. Must just be my devilish charm. He said as they passed a demon who was playing what looked to be a saxophone. Naruto scoffed as he looked at some televisions that were playing some ads, a demon with a TV for a head seeming to be the main presenter. Friend of yours? Naruto asked given the similar themes between the two, one being a TV, while Alistair was radio-themed. Hardly, the red demon replied with an annoyed look on his face as the monitors glitched and the face of the TV demon appeared on all of them, glaring down at the two before his eyes flickered to Naruto who narrowed his eyes at the weak attempt to intimidate them. "Just a pompous bastard," Alistair said, clearly not liking the other demon. "Seems like a coward, trying to scare us through the TV instead of facing us in person," Naruto shrugged, his eyes glowing blue as a faint white glow coated his body. The smile on the televised demon's face fell as Naruto locked eyes with him before turning and leaving. "What a waste of time," he dismissed as the two continued on their way. "Though I must stop at the butcher's shop, I'm in need of venison," he said as they passed a butcher's shop. "If you don't mind of course, my good fellow." "Your thing," Naruto said, leaning against the side of the building while Alistair went in to buy whatever he needed. He doubted that he was buying plain venison, he doubted he could just get that in hell unless demons had been going up to earth to hunt down some deer. Something that was actually plausible now that he thought about it. It was only a few moments later that a demonic power flare up inside the shop. "Guess it didn't go too well," Naruto muttered as a lamb-like demon passed by him, going into the shop as Alistair walked out. "All done?" Naruto asked before hearing screams coming from the butcher shop. "Hey! Stop! Let go of me! Get off me! Help! Help!" They heard coming from inside the store. Alistair's smile was lost as his eyes began to glow and his power started to rise. Naruto himself felt his aura flaring, illuminating the space around him in the pale light. "Oi, I'll handle this," Naruto said as he noticed that the former human was starting to transform into his true form. Going inside the shop he saw the boar-like butcher holding the lamb demoness by the throat. The demon's eyes widened as he felt the heavenly power rolling off Naruto as he approached them. Whoa, buddy. No need to get violent," the butcher claimed, letting go of the female demon who backed away from the two as Naruto approached regardless. "I don't really appreciate those who pick on those weaker than themselves," the saint stated, grabbing the boar by the throat and lifting him up into the air with ease. The demon squirmed in his grasp as the power radiating from him burnt his flesh like holy flames. "If I wanted to, I could end your life in an instant permanently," Naruto told him, a ball of blue-white energy forming in his free hand. I'm sorry. The lady's order is on the house. Promise." He offered to look at the sheep demon with a pleading look in his eyes. Naruto looked back at the other demon in the shop. "Well, what do you say?" "I want 2 racks of lamb and human sirloin," the demon said, feeling that if the meat was free and she could leave safely, she didn't need the butcher dead. "Not a problem," the boar demon croaked out before he was dropped by the resident of heaven. It took the former human a few minutes to gather the order before handing it off to the lamb demon who smiled at the massive amount of meat she had gotten for free. As they left, the lamb looked back and smiled at the blonde. "Care to join me? I can cook a mean human," she offered, feeling grateful for the rescue. "Thanks for the offer, but I'm a bit busy today," Naruto declined. He wasn't exactly in the mood to eat humans ever. It wasn't even in his top 1000 things to do. The lamb looked a bit dejected but accepted it, waving goodbye as she left the two. "Getting chummy with the locals, I see," Alistair commented with a laugh. "How entertaining you ended up being," Alistair said, having enjoyed the sight of the butcher begging for forgiveness from the lady while being burnt by Naruto's heavenly energy. The sheer despair in his eyes as he met one of the few creatures in hell capable of actually putting them down permanently. Looking at the lamb demon as she returned to her home, he originally figured that maybe she could be a candidate for redemption, but the blatant cannibalism likely would gatekeep them from ascending. "So tell me, what's someone like you doing down in hell?" Alistair asked the question that had been on his mind. Originally he thought that maybe the blonde had been like Lucifer, someone who had been kicked out of heaven for some action deemed unacceptable. However, the halo on Naruto's head and his generally good demeanor told him otherwise. It's a secret for now, I don't know how much my partner wants to be known yet," Naruto replied as they continued on their way. "Secrets involving a saintly soul and a devilish benefactor. How exuberantly exciting," Alistair declared, figuring that if the blonde wouldn't tell him, then he'd just have to find out in due time. "Well, we're almost at my good friend Rosie's emporium," Alistair told the saint, who nodded his head. While he had to admit this, Alistair gave off a rather unhinged vibe. He was at least being cordial and not running away from him. "We're here," the dapper demon said as they reached a place called Franklin and Rosie's Emporium. As the two stood outside the storefront, a woman opened the door and stepped outside with a wide smile, filled with dagger-like white teeth. She had pale white skin a few shades darker than Charlie's and short pure white hair under a red sun hat. The hat was decorated around the rim with small human skulls and red flowers, along with a red-pink plume of feathers on the back. She wore a dull red dress with a black belt around her waist that, like Alistair's outfit, seemed to be from a time long since past. "Alistair? It's been too long, my girls told me that you were coming to visit." "And I see you brought a friend," she said cheerfully, looking at the blonde standing a few feet behind her dear friend. Naruto noticed that her eyes were almost completely black, sclera and all. "I'm Rosie, a pleasure to make your acquaintance," she said, offering the blonde her hand. "Naruto Uzumaki, a pleasure to meet you," Naruto said, taking her hand and giving it a small kiss to greet her. From what he had learned of the town and its people, they followed customs and traditions of an older time and attacked anyone who didn't follow suit. He didn't feel like fighting against an army of cannibals today. "Why, a gentleman, how hard to find one these days in hell. Though I suppose that may be due to your higher nature," she mentioned, lamenting lightly at the poor quality of men in hell. "Most were brutes fit only to be served for dinner. Come in, I prepared some tea and cakes for us," she mentioned, motioning for them to come into the emporium. "Oh, and don't worry, I have vegan options," she said to Naruto with a wide smile. "That means they're not made of humans or demons," Alistair mentioned to Naruto, so he knew that the food was safe to eat without committing cannibalism. "Good to know," Naruto replied in a flat tone of voice, his face deadpanning as they walked into the building, seeing a wide array of products for sale. It ranged from small things like flowers to full bodies and organs. "You have quite the inventory," the blonde commented as they entered a balcony that overlooked the cannibal colony. "Why aren't you sweet enough to eat?" Rosie said kindly, motioning for the two of them to sit down at a small tea table while she went to go grab the food and refreshments. "Do you think she meant that figuratively or literally?" Naruto asked Alistair, who gave him a wicked grin. "Both," the overlord explained happily. "Now Alistair, don't make me look bad," Rosie chastised, walking back to them with two porcelain tea kettles with a few finger sandwiches, but some were a bit more literal than the others. "I would never do anything as rude as eating a guest," she claimed as she placed the tray down in the center of the table before sitting beside the dear demon. Naruto watched as she poured him a cup of black tea before pouring her and Alistair cups filled with blood-red tea. He was certain from the faint smell of iron coming from the tea that it was actually made from blood. "Thank you," he told the female overlord. He could tell that she was fairly powerful as well given her energy, not as strong as Alistair, but stronger than the average demon. "It's rare for you to bring a friend, Alistair, he must be quite interesting," Rosie mentioned as she wanted to know why exactly Alistair was showing such a dangerous individual around her territory. She held Alistair as one of her closest friends, but the last thing she needed in her long life was a heavenly being snapping because someone said something or tried to eat him and slaughter all her minions. "Why, how could I resist? Not every day that you get the chance to chat with an innocent soul. I figured if he was going to stay in hell for a bit, he should be properly shown around and maybe shown the best emporium in all of hell," he told Rosie honestly. Sure, he added a segment of her store to butter her a little, but he really couldn't pass up the opportunity. "Well, I'd appreciate a telegram first next time. Your friend gave the people of the colony quite the scare, you know," Rosie said, knowing that a few of her followers had been a bit put off by the presence of the blonde. In particular, sinner demons were more susceptible to his presence. It was an innate fear of beings like the exorcists that came down once a year that made them feel uncomfortable around him. It was as if their very souls knew that he was a danger to them. "Sorry, I wish I could hide it," Naruto said. Had tried to use his skills as a shinobi to hide his holy presence, but regardless of how hard he tried, demons still reacted the same way when near him. Luckily, it seemed that their perception of him after their first meeting seemed to override that to an extent, as shown by the lamb demon who invited him over after seeing him defend her. Rosie waved it off and gave the blonde a fanged smile. "Don't be, so long as you don't try and kill anyone here, we'll have no issues," she told him. The old-fashioned overlord knew better than to pick a fight with the blonde. Like the many residents of hell, she had felt his energy clashing against Lucifer's. Though, she wouldn't deny that part of her was dying for a taste of the saint. The taste an innocent soul from heaven was something few ever had the chance to have. Naruto smiled in at that. "Well, have no intentions of killing anyone in hell at the moment. I don't think my business partner would like that," he mentioned, much to Rosie's interest. "Oh? And who is this partner of yours, Naruto?" Rosie asked, wanting to know more about the situation. "I assume it involves Lucifer. Are you perhaps working with the princess?" "I've heard some rumors that she's been working on something as of late," Rosie mentioned as one of her fellow overlords had told her a rumor that the princess of hell had been spotted coming in and out of an abandoned builder belonging to the royal family. "Perhaps," Naruto said, not being one for lying. Even after all this time, he wasn't one to lie to others, even if that other was a cannibalistic demon. Having spent a long time in heaven around some of the most virtuous people who have ever walked the earth didn't exactly help in that regard. Rosie hummed as she took a sip of her bloody tea. "Well, then I look forward to the grand reveal of your project. If an envoy from heaven is willing to work with the princess of hell, then it must be something truly special," the demoness spoke, wondering how much she could get from the blonde saint. A smile stretched across Naruto's face. I think it is, but I'm not at liberty to give out many details on it until Charlie's ready to tell the rest of Hell about it, Naruto said, being cautious about how much he told the demon about Charlie's hotel. Given the reaction he had gotten both in heaven and from the few demons who knew so far, he doubted it would be well received without potential results to show to prove it was something worth their time and effort. The perpetual smile on Rosie's face fell slightly when Naruto didn't take the bait and tell her what he and Charlie had been working on. Well, all things in due time them, Rosie relented, figuring that she'd learn what they were up to either from the official announcement or another customer. Oh, you should have seen our dear friend earlier, Rosie. When that butcher around the corner tried to bother a lady, he showed him a proper walloping, Alistair mentioned to his close friend, who seemed to gain a dangerous glint in her pitch-black eyes. Is that so? Well, I might have to give our good butcher a visit then. Maybe get a few cuts of fresh boar, Rosie said innocently, but Naruto knew what she really meant. She was probably going to go and eat him. What do you say, Naruto? Rosie asked the blonde. Hell isn't my home, so I don't exactly think it's my place to say, he deflected. He knew that he was only a guest in hell, and the chances that he'd make any major changes were slim to none. The most he felt he could do was provide a pathway for a sinner who might be capable of being rehabilitated to enter heaven. I already gave him my punishment for bothering that lamb demon, Naruto said, knowing that the burns he left behind probably wouldn't heal anytime soon due to the nature of his power. Quite the nasty burn, Alistair mentioned, having seen the face of the butcher after the blonde was done with him. Personally, he would have killed the bastard off. But the burns left behind would be enough of a reminder to stay in his lane. Marvelous. Rosie declared as she picked out a cookie with an eye in the center that still appeared to be alive and gleefully ate it, much to Naruto's hidden disgust. Are you certain you don't want to try one? They're magnificent, the demoness asked, offering the blonde one. No thank you, Naruto declined once again. More for us then, Rosie said, eating it herself instead. So since you are working with the princess, I assume you'll be at Lucifer's winter gala? She questioned. Winter gala? Naruto repeated, having never heard either Charlie or Lucifer mention it before. Every year, Lord Lucifer hosts a large ball at one of his castles for all the high-ranking demons to come. From demonic royalty to overlord, you can expect quite an assortment of influential beings there, Rosie explained to the blonde saint. It wasn't really shocking that he wasn't invited to come by Charlie. Having someone from heaven there might ruin the mood of some demons who might not be as tolerant as she was. Alistair's smile widened as he looked at Naruto. Well, you can have my invitation then. He said, pulling out a black letter and offering it to Naruto. I have no intention of going, certain people I'd rather not have to stomach being around, the red-themed demon mentioned. He knew that pompous buffoon Vox and his compatriots would be there and he wanted nothing to do with them. Rosie looked at Alistair and immediately knew what was going on. The dear demon simply wanted to pester Lucifer by giving Naruto an invite to his party. If the saint showed up at Lucifer's party, who knew how the nobility of hell would react? The whole event might break out into an all-out brawl between the two sides. If Charlie wanted me there, she would have asked me to go, Naruto stated, rejecting Alistair's offer. He could tell that the sinner demon was only in it to cause chaos at Lucifer's party. While he loved messing with the ruler of hell, he doubted Charlie would appreciate him causing a scene when she didn't want him there. If she wants me to go, then I'll wait for her to invite me, he said firmly. My, what a true gentleman, Rosie complimented before her grandfather clock began to chime or rather scream. Well, I must apologize, but I must get back to work. Please feel free to enjoy the refreshments without me. Until next time, she said, getting up and leaving the two to tend to her store. Isn't she wonderful? Alistair asked as he grabbed one of the sandwiches. She seemed nice enough, Naruto replied. It was hard for him to figure if she was wonderful or a monster. Sure, Rosie seemed amicable enough to talk to and was willing to provide non-flesh-based food for him, but in the end, she actively promoted cannibalism. Well, I gotta get going. Charlie's probably wondering where I am, Naruto said as he got up from his seat, figuring that Charlie might be a bit anxious about him wandering about hell. A shame, Alistair said, pouring himself another cup of tea, figuring that he'd enjoy the offered treats until Rosie returned. Well, it was a pleasure spending the day with you, my good fellow, Alistair said, standing up and walking to the blonde to shake his hand. It was an enlightening walk, Naruto responded as he took the demon's hand, careful not to accidentally leak any energy. Hopefully we can do it again another day, he said happily that the day had gone well. He had learned a bit about hell and met a few of the power players in the Pride Ring, in the form of Alistair, Vox, and Rosie. Overall a successful walk if there ever was one. Oh, I hope we do. You were quite entertaining. Alistair exclaimed with a wide smile as they let each other's hands go. Particularly when you showed that buffoon Vox what for, the Redeed mentioned. That had honestly been his favorite part when with just a glance and a flare of power, Naruto had scared off the TV-based demon. Please, you should have seen my fights with Lucifer. Pretty sure we sank a city once, Naruto mentioned, recalling one specific confrontation with the ruler of hell. Things between them rarely turned actually violent. But on one such occasion, things escalated and the two came to blows. Eventually, they stopped once they noticed the city they were fighting over was sinking into the sea. Alistair paused as thought about what he had just heard. Are you saying you and Lucifer sank Atlantis? He asked, recalling having heard of the lost city on occasion during his time alive, typically from people who thought it was an actual place. Maybe. It was so long ago I don't remember its name, to be fair, Naruto admitted. It honestly was a blip in the eternity that he had been in existence. Neat, Alistair said, a bit impressed at the fact. Well, see you later. Naruto said, walking out the door, leaving the radio demon to his own devices. Puru. Walking back into Pentagram City from the cannibal colony, he heard his phone start to ring in his pocket. Pulling his hyphen out, he saw Hagoromo's face popping up on the screen. Hey Super Gramps, what's up? Naruto asked as he walked down the streets, the demons once again avoiding him like the plague. Naruto. How have you been? Are you alright? The ancient sage asked, wondering how his descendant was doing. Naruto smiled, happy to be able to talk to someone from his era. Yeah. I managed to get into contact with Cherri, Lucifer's daughter, and she's nothing like the old snake. I'm honestly surprised that she's a demon. He mentioned, recalling how his first impression of Cherri had been that she didn't really seem like the type of person who should be in hell to begin with. Glad to hear. We were quite worried about you when you jumped out off the edge of heaven. Asura thought you'd start a war the moment you arrived down there, Hagoromo mentioned with a light chuckle. Happy to know he had such high expectations for the inheritor of his chakra, Naruto said flatly. You know he means the best, Naruto, the ancestor of the shinobi replied. It's not every day that someone from heaven goes to hell without either falling or wanting to exterminate sinners, he said sadly. Like Naruto, the sage of the six paths hated the current system that hell operated under. It was a sentiment that was largely shared by Asura and Hashirama as well, only they had more restraint than Naruto in trying to change the system. I know, but I'm certain that things will work out, the blonde reassured. Sure, he was a bit unnerved by how happily some sinners committed cannibalism. He knew that some people down here would practice it, but he never expected to see a bunch of women eating a corpus on the side of the street. Is that Naruto? He heard Hashirama yell before the sounds of a quick struggle came through the phone. How's Hellord 7th? The founder of Konoha asked, using his official title as the 7th Hokage. It's certainly different. I didn't expect some people to be so open about their habits, he answered. He had seen people openly do the most extreme drugs on earth while walking down the street. That butcher had openly tried to molest that lamb demoness, despite knowing that Alistair and was just outside the door. Well, not everyone wants to change. But I'm certain that you'll find those willing, Hashirama stated confidently. Have you met any other shinobi down there? None so far. Lucifer said that given how much time had passed, he was certain they had been exterminated at this point, the blonde said, looking away. He had hoped to meet Hinata down here. She had been sent to hell for the few deaths she had on her hands from her time as an active shinobi. He had spent hours trying to find her energy signature in hell, but wasn't able to find anything. It was partly the memory of his late wife that gave him hope that people could go up to heaven if given a chance. He knew that Hinata was the type of person who would be able to make amends for her crimes. Part of him hated the favoritism he was shown upon his death. To be separated from almost everyone he knew and loved due to the nature of the system they were born into hurt him deeply. He heard Hashirama sigh on the other end of the call. Like him, Hashirama had been hoping to see some familiar faces in hell, even if it was through a Halo time call on Naruto's hyphen. I see, the wood-style user muttered. He had been hoping to see Tobirama and Swand if they had survived in hell. But even the strongest demons could fall to the angels of heaven when they came down to hell to clean up. It just took one hit at the wrong time to end it all. Sorry Hashirama, Naruto apologized, feeling bad to crush the man's hope to see his family. It's fine, I knew that it was only a chance that they'd survive this long, Hashirama replied, his voice filled with disappointment. Naruto. The blonde turned around to see a limo driving towards him, Cherri poking her entire torso out, waving at him. I have to go now, I'll try and call later, Naruto said to the two in heaven before hanging up after a round of goodbyes. The limo stopped next to him, Cherri opening the door for him to enter. He said, sitting down on the padded seat. Where have you been? Baggy snapped at him. Do you know how long we've been looking for you? Baggy, Cherri said softly, placing a hand on the sinner demon's shoulder in an attempt to keep her lover calm. Looking at Naruto, she gave him an anxious smile. Sorry, we were just worried. Dad came around and asked where you were and flipped out when we didn't know, the princess admitted. They had been sound asleep before the fallen angel stormed into the hotel. Lucifer had been very irate when he found out that the saint was somewhere out in hell without any sort of supervision. Lucy was looking for me. What did he want? Charlie pulled out a letter similar to the one that Alistair had offered him just earlier today. He wanted to invite you to his winter gala, she told him, handing the letter to the blonde who looked at the envelope for a moment before opening it. Hey, you self-righteous dipshit. Figured that since you're in hell, I'd show you the life that you turned away eons ago. So you're invited to my party. You better show up. Funk you. Lucifer Morningstar. Naruto rolled his eyes before pulling out his phone. Really? You get invited to one of the most prestigious events in hell, and you don't even say anything? Vaggie questioned as the blonde seemed to blow off the invitation despite the magnitude of it. Only the highest echelon of demons was invited to the party, and he had gotten an invite directly from Lucifer himself. I mean, it's just to gloat and show off to me. I exactly care about the demon nobility, Naruto replied, not really caring about going to this party. He just didn't want Charlie's plans to be hurt. I know, but I could use the support, Charlie admitted, looking at him with pleading eyes, much to Vaggie's frustration. Vaggie isn't allowed to come tomorrow, so I'd appreciate it if you could come and back me up. Charlie asked with a nervous smile, hoping that the blonde would be willing to come with her. Lucifer had told her that he had big plans for her at the party, and she felt that she needed someone there she could trust. Naruto said before Charlie looked at him with puppy dog eyes, her lower lip quivering as she looked so helpless for a moment. Fine, he relented. Thank you. Charlie yelled, hugging the former shinobi. Vaggie's eye twitched as Angel's words from earlier replayed in her head. A lot of the demons there think I'm a failure, so it'll be nice to have a friend. She told him earnestly. Hugging her back, Naruto gave her a confident smile. I'm here however you need me, Charlie, Naruto told her, earning him a grateful look from the demonic princess who sat next to the blonde for the rest of the ride. We're here, Vaggie interrupted as the limo pulled up to the front of the Happy Hotel. As the three left the limo, the car sped off. The Hispanic demon watched as the two walked in together, talking about plans for the party and how they should go. Relax, Vaggie, they're just friends, she tried to reassure herself. She recalled the moment she spent with Charlie after they parted ways with the blonde before, shivers running through her body, while pink dusted her cheeks. So I was thinking we can take the limo to the party. What do you think? Charlie asked, figuring that they could have her family's driver drop them off. Sounds good, Naruto said as he texted something on his hiphone. A few seconds later a portal opened up and a white present fell out into the blonde's hands. Good old Gabriel, always comes through, he mentioned, much to Charlie's confusion. Placing the box down, he looked at the note inside. You're a representative of heaven, go well dressed. Pulling out the contents of the box, Naruto smirked at the pure white suit that Gabriel had sent to him. I figured that I should go well dressed, don't want to embarrass the royal family more than Lucy already does, he said to Charlie as he took the box into a bathroom to change. What was that? Vaggie asked as she saw Naruto walking away into the bathroom. Evan sent him an outfit to wear for the party, Charlie replied, sitting down to wait for the blonde to return. Vaggie sat next to her lover, smiling as she leaned her head on the princess's shoulder. Charlie glanced at her lover and mirrored her smile, relaxing against her as they waited for Naruto to return, her hand caressing Vaggie's inner thigh. They lost their sense of time before the saint returned. Am I interrupting something? He asked with a small smirk on his face. The two sat up, faces bright red as the blonde laughed at their reaction. So how do I look? He asked as he spread his arms. Looking the man over, Charlie instantly noticed that what he was wearing was a pure white tuxedo with a split tail and in sky golden inside. Under the jacket he was wearing a sky blue dress shirt with a golden yellow tie. Wow, Charlie muttered as the white fabric seemed to have a slight glow to it. You look great, she complimented. The outfit suited him and complemented his golden hair and halo over his head. Thanks, Naruto said, turning to Vaggie. Well. The Cinder demon scoffed, it suits you, she stated simply. Naruto frowned as he could tell that something was up with Vaggie. She seemed to radiate darkness when he was around. Hey, if something's wrong, I'm always here to talk to Vaggie, he offered, figuring that opening the door to her would be the best way to resolve any problems they might have. Nothing's wrong, I'm just irritated that Lucifer woke us up to go looking for you, Vaggie said, standing up and walking away from the two blondes. A sigh left Naruto's lip while Charlie looked concerned for her girlfriend. Did I do something wrong? He asked the owner of the hotel, who shook her head. No, I just don't know what's bothering her, she replied. Vaggie had been rather dodgy about the subject whenever she asked about what was making her upset recently. She wished that she'd tell her so they could work things out between her and the saint. We'll figure it out after the party, Charlie said, knowing that she had to prepare herself for the event. As much as she loved Vaggie, the party was something that she couldn't funk up. Her family was already disrespected throughout hell for their lack of authority, she couldn't risk looking too badly in front of the demonic nobility. Right, if Charlie wanted to handle it afterward, then he'd respect her wishes. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm just worried about Vaggie. But thanks, it's hard to find people who actually care in hell, Charlie said back to the blonde, and it was true. Most of the people in hell were either people who sinned too much to be forgiven or demons who reveled in darkness. It's rare to find people from hell who were genuinely good like Vaggie. Trust me, heaven isn't much better, he mentioned to the suit-wearing demon who looked curious at the comment. What do you mean? She asked, moving over so he could sit down on the couch. She always thought that heaven must be some wonderful place, but it seemed that it might not be the case from what the blonde said. Well, sometimes people from heaven feel a bit too perfect. Since they have to live their lives so piously to get in, a lot of them act similarly. It's tough to find people who are well real people sometimes, Naruto mentioned as he had found that a lot of people in heaven were boring. Not even in the peaceful sense. Charlie thought about what she had learned and it made sense. If the people of hell were overly chaotic, the people of heaven would be too orderly with some who fell in between one way or another. So it's a bit refreshing being in hell, it feels like I'm around actual people sometimes, Naruto mentioned, nudging Charlie and getting a giggle from her. To be honest, I didn't know what I'd find when I came down here. And to be honest, I saw some things during my walk that made me turn green, but getting to know you guys makes me happy I came here, he told her. We try, Charlie replied, running her fingers through her hair, not sure what to say next. It was a strong compliment. It felt good to hear that someone thought highly of her. Naruto smiled as the two continued to talk about the people of heaven and hell for a while, before deciding to turn in for the night, ready for the events to come the following day. You ready? Naruto asked as he met Charlie and Vaggie in the lobby of the hotel. The reactions the two had couldn't have been any more different. Charlie seemed happy to see the blonde, while Vaggie didn't seem to want to even meet his eyes. Yeah. The limo's waiting outside, she told him. She had changed out of her regular suit and had instead put on a black dress with a red long bow around her neck. The dress was decorated with black upside-down crosses around the skirt and black heels. We'll be back in a few hours, Charlie told her lover, pecking her on the lips before leaving with the saint. Naruto opened the door for Charlie before getting into the car himself. Charlie took a deep breath as the car drove away from the hotel, calming her nerves for the party to come. Anxious. The resident of heaven asked as he noticed that Charlie seemed to be trying to get her nerves under control. Just a bit, she admitted, a nervous grin on her face. After their conversation the previous, she knew that it was likely that no one would take her proposal seriously, but she couldn't afford to look weak in front of the top of the demonic food chain. Naruto scowled as he knew that Lucifer likely had something up his sleeve. He wouldn't have his heir announce something that most demons would think of it as a waste of time without any result to show. And their results right now were reliant on Angel, who he doubted was a well-behaved as he said. It was possible that Lucifer wanted to embarrass Charlie into giving up on her dream. Well, then I'll stand right next to you, Naruto declared, making clear his intent to die on the hell Charlie stood on. Like he told Vaggie, he didn't care for the nobles of hell. He doubted any of them would be willing to give up the power and influence they had here for a chance to maybe get into heaven. No to them, this might as well be their heaven. Knowing that the saint would be next to her made her feel more confident in herself. The man seemed to have an almost contagious sense of confidence. No wonder he was able to lead the world against her father for so long, before and after his death. How do you think I should announce it? She asked looking out the window before gasping and turning to him with a wide smile. How about a song? She exclaimed, excited by the idea. Naruto hummed as he didn't exactly know what to say to that. While he had no qualms with singing, he didn't know how the crowd would react to the announcement being made through it. I don't know, are you sure that's a good idea? Yeah. I'm better at expressing myself through song, she told him, starry-eyed at the prospect of being able to tell everyone her goals through a wondrous musical number. I'm sure it'll make the announcement more exciting. Charlie said, getting closer to the blonde in anticipation for his response. He thought it was a bad idea. In heaven, that might have passed given how many of its residents loved joyful singing, but he didn't know how the resident of hell would take it, especially beings like those of the Gosha family. However, looking at the sunny look on the princess's face, he couldn't help but want to encourage her. Just a few moments ago, she had been nervous about the whole thing, but now she was rearing to go. I think you should do it if it'll help you get your point across, Naruto answered. Woo-oh. Charlie whooped, jumping up in joy only for the limo to make a sharp turn and throw her into the suit-wearing blonde. Be careful. Naruto yelled at the driver. You're welcome. The driver shouted at Naruto with a fanged smirk. Sorry. Charlie yelped as she realized that she had been thrown into Naruto's arms. Naruto helped her off him and back to her seat. No more jumping in the car I guess, haha, she laughed, the red spots on her cheeks seeming a bit brighter. It's fine, Naruto replied, his own whiskered cheek slightly flushed at the unexpected contact with the demoness. Are you okay? He asked, wanting to make sure that she wasn't hurt. I'm okay. The princess replied a bit awkwardly. So the song, do you want a part? She asked, wanting to change subjects back to the musical number and proposing a duet between them. "Well, I never really sang before, life never really gave me a chance to learn," he admitted. Most of his life had been devoted to fighting and trying to keep the world a peaceful place. And even after that, he had to contend with Lucifer poking his nose and trying to undo all his work. Learning to sing really never came up as a skill he would need. Charlie looked a bit disappointed but bounced back. "Well, I can teach you. I'll make you a pro in a snap," she said, physically snapping her fingers. "Well, I can clone myself to learn faster, but I don't think we have enough time for me to learn a whole song and dance," he pointed out. Between learning to sing and then actually learning a duet with Charlie, he doubted he'd be able to pull it off, especially in front of a bunch of people. "That's fair," Charlie relented, knowing that it was unfair to try and make the blonde sing in front of people if he didn't know how. "We're here," the driver yelled out as they pulled up to a large castle. Naruto looked out the window and saw dozens of demons walking, flying, or slithering down a red carpet. On both sides were dozens of paparazzi demons waiting to take a picture of the partygoers. "Well, let's do this, Charlie." So this part ends here. Alright, that's it for today's video, guys. Let me know in the comments section how was the story, and also don't forget to like, share and subscribe. I will meet you in another video. Bye bye.